Good afternoon from Untermeyer Gardens in Yonkers, New York. I'm Drew Schuyler, the assistant head gardener here, and I'm wearing a lot of layers as it's a very cool, drizzly May day, late May day, and that's perfect for our topic today, which is cool season annuals that we're using in the walled garden this spring in 2025. As Timothy covered in a previous video, we moved away from doing monoculture 10,000 bulb tulip displays because of disease and sustainability concerns, and we've started moving towards these more diverse, experimental plantings of all different kinds of flowers and annuals, and I'm going to tell you about a few of them this afternoon. So in traditional formal bedding schemes, usually at the end of the season, the bedding plants are removed and composted or disposed of. And I've been racking my brain over the years trying to figure out different ways that we could reuse or replant some of these well-grown plants that we use in our annual displays. And last summer, we used a number of different perennials as part of the display that overwinter successfully in our climate, including a red-leafed heuchera, and both a pink and white flowering gora. And we were able this spring to replant hundreds of each of those plants into the larger garden outside of these walls. But we chose to keep a few plants in the beds, including this really beautiful set of ornamental grasses, Stipa ponytails, Carex Bronco, and Carex Amazon Mist, which are holdovers from last year's display and just gave us sort of a texture to bounce off of as we put together this year's spring crop. So as a quick 101 for cool season annuals, when I say cool season, I'm specifically talking about here in the Northeast, the spring months of March, April, May, and June. As we get into the heat of July, a lot of the plants that we've used in these displays are really going to start slowing down. Some of them might even die. They'll finish their life cycle. They're done in the heat. And so there are some plants that we return to every year, regardless of the color that we're doing that year or the vibe of the display. And a lot of those plants are some common plants like snapdragons, kale, cabbage, lettuce, pansies, violas, things of that nature that you would find in a garden center in these early spring months. So the color theme for this spring is hot colors, orange, red, yellows, and when you're putting together a display like this, you really want, in addition to a diversity of leaf forms and flower colors and leaf shapes, you want these stitcher plants that are kind of going to pull through the whole display and really get your point across. And those two plants this year that are doing really the heavy lifting of this orange theme are this Calendula orange button, which we grew from seed, and Nesia Tangerine, which is a beautiful plant native to South Africa, which actually, if we were to keep in the ground and shear back, would probably rebloom in the fall, but we are going to move on to tropicals in July. Also in the canals, the beds that frame the crisscrossing water canals, we're complementing these oranges with a yellow plant. So the Viola Tigeri in the very front is the yellow complement to this orange stitch throughout. So as you move towards the reflecting pool, we've added red to the mix to sort of highlight this change of location. And one of my favorite red plants we're using this spring is Argyranthemum. Haven't grown this in a really long time. It's Argyranthemum GRANDAISY Red. It's a native to the Canary Islands, and I love the way its flower petals are capturing the rain droplets this afternoon. It's similar to the Nemesia in that if we sheared it back and we sort of coddled it through summer, it could possibly rebloom in the fall, but ultimately it really just doesn't like the heat and humidity of our summer climates. Next to it is this pansy, Cool Wave Fire, which is a really interesting pansy in that most pansies by the end of the season will only be maybe 6 to 8 inches wide, but this Cool Wave series is going to expand to 10, 12, maybe even 14 inches before we pull it out in July, really filling a nice big space. And in between those two is this lobelia I wanted to point out to you guys. This lobelia is actually a white form. You're most likely familiar with this lobelia in a very, very cool electric blue, often in hanging baskets this time of year. And we thought we'd try out this white form and see how it does for us this spring. One of the things that motivated us in moving away from tulip displays was also trying to showcase for our visitors that you can get a really loud, colorful display in spring without resorting to monoculture tulip plantings. And I think that this display, just coming into its own, just starting to bloom, is really showing how many different kinds of flowers, how many different kinds of colors you can achieve in a diverse spring bedding scheme. Additionally, the tulip display only lasts 2 or 3 weeks really before the heat starts to punk out those tulips. And this display is only just getting started and is going to last 6 to 8 weeks, carrying us all the way through to our summer solstice soiree this year on June 17th. So I hope you can come to our soiree, and if not, I hope you can come visit these spring flowers before they're all gone in July. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I hope you learned a bit on this video.